You ever carry a gun so small, people scoff at it in the parking lot? And then during a dry day at the range, it surprises the hell out of you? That's the world we're stepping into. Micro pistols live and die on tiny details. How they fit your hand when your adrenaline spikes, whether they let you get a second shot on target, and whether they make you feel safer or just more anxious about a malfunction. I'm not here to sell pretty stats. I'm here to tell you which ones forgive bad training, which ones need a little TLC, and which ones you should avoid unless you truly need to disappear. Over the next 12 picks, I'll flip the usual order, toss out the tired talking points, and give you the kind of field notes you don't get from a spec sheet. For each gun, I'll open with the real-world carry case it fits. Then walk through the practical breathing points, draw and concealment, trigger and follow-up, what loads feed clean, and the common failure modes you can fix at home. Expect holster tips you can use the next time you step out the door, and ammunition choices that won't make the gun hate you. I will keep the model names exactly right, but I'm changing everything else. That means entirely new phrasing, new transitions, and a fresh angle for each entry. Some entries I'll emphasize recoil management and follow-ups. Others I'll lean into concealment tricks and clothing choices that make a micro-pistol actually usable day to day. Where a model has a known quirk, I'll explain how to live with it and when it's time to send it back to the factory. Number 12. Kimber Micro 9. Slim 9mm 1911 ergonomics packed into a genuinely carryable frame. The Kimber Micro 9 points like a 1911 and gives you a trigger closer to single action than most micro compacts. That extra grip length makes follow-ups easier and turns otherwise frustrating drills into usable training. Carry it tucked IWB or shallow appendix. Pocket carry only with a proper molded pocket holster. Feed it quality 9mm hollow points and run each load through a few hundred rounds to confirm reliability. The skinny single-stack magazines wear faster, so rotate spares and watch spring life. Kimber's small pistols can be finicky if you limp wrist them, so practice solid wrist lock on your draws. Clean the feed ramp and replace worn springs before they bite you at a bad time. Recoil is snappy but manageable thanks to the grip geometry and slide mass. If you want a micro that actually trains like a service pistol in miniature, this one delivers. If absolute vanishing is your goal, smaller pocket autos will hide easier but sacrifice ergonomics. For daily carry that balances shootability with concealment, the Micro 9 sits in a practical middle ground. Keep lubrication light, inspect magazines often, and carry what you're willing to practice with. Number 11. Lifecard. The Lifecard is literal micro carry, thin as a credit card and built to disappear in a wallet or shallow pocket. It's a last resort tool, not a primary defensive firearm. Chambered in 22 LR, recoil is nearly non-existent, but effective range is extremely close. Expect a very short sight radius and a shooting feel that rewards slow, deliberate shots. The tiny controls and slabby ergonomics mean proper technique matters far more than raw strength. In the real world, you get useful results by mastering presentation and slow, controlled follow-ups rather than trying to muscle the gun. Feeding can be picky in such a small mechanism, so test every defensive load you plan to carry. Reliability hinges on cleanliness, magazine condition, and sticking to recommended overall length for rounds. Use a purpose-built sleeve or holster that protects the trigger and stabilizes the Lifecard during the draw. Maintenance is simple but frequent. Clean the chamber and contact surfaces and inspect springs and followers often. Don't confuse concealability with ease of use. Small guns demand more training, not less. If your priority is absolute vanishability and you accept the trade-offs, the Lifecard does the job. Carry it with realistic expectations and train the tiny practical drills that make it work when it matters. Number 10. Sig P365. The P238 is a tiny Colt-style pocket pistol built like a scaled-down Commander, and it's chambered in 380 ACP. It feels solid in the hand for something that disappears in a front pocket, mostly because Sig built it with metal parts and a real slide instead of cheap polymer. Carry it in a molded pocket holster or a slim IWB that holds muzzle down and keeps the trigger covered. The short sight radius and small grip mean your accuracy window is close, so practice fast deliberate pairs at 3 to 7 yards. Trigger pulls on original P238s are crisp for a pocket gun, which helps when you need a quick, accurate first shot. Feeding is generally good with proven 380 defensive loads, but like most micro-autos, it behaves best with tested magazines and routine mag rotation. Expect snappy muzzle flip because of the lightweight, so grip geometry and a firm wrist lock are where follow-ups are won or lost. Maintenance is straightforward. Keep the slide rails and extractor clean, and don't ignore worn mag lips or weak springs. If you carry one daily, run the same defensive load hundreds of rounds through it during practice to build confidence. Quirks are minor, but real. Some early examples had picky mags and finish concerns, so inspect your serial batch and pick reliable aftermarket magazines if needed. For someone who wants a familiar single-handable feel in a true pocket package, the P238 balances shootability and concealment better than many smaller polymer micro-pistols. It's not a range queen. It's a practical vanish-and-fight tool when set up and practiced with. Number 9. Ruger LCP Max. The LCP Max is Ruger's answer to more rounds in a pocketable footprint, a tiny 380 ACP that actually gives you meaningful capacity without turning into a brick. It's light, short, and built to vanish in a front pocket or shallow IWB, but don't mistake small for fragile. Ruger made this with a steel slide and usable sights, not novelty parts. Carry it in a molded pocket holster that keeps the muzzle down and the trigger fully covered. That's non-negotiable with any pocket gun. On the range, it rewards steady presentation. Recoil is snappy because of the caliber and weight, but the staggered mag gives you extra rounds to manage recoil strings rather than praying a single shot solved everything. Trigger and reset are typical for the class. Not match grade, but good enough for fast. Accurate first shots at close distances. Feeding is much improved over older LCP designs thanks to the Max magazines, but always test your defensive hollow points for reliable ejection and seating. Mag springs and followers are wear items here. Keep a rotation of spares and swap springs on a schedule if you carry daily. For follow-ups, focus on grip purchase and a firm wrist lock. The shallow grip means your control comes from technique, not surface area. Maintenance is simple. Clean the slide rails, check the extractor, and watch magazine lips for burrs. If you need a real pocket gun that gives you capacity and keeps a tiny footprint, the LCP Max is one of the few micro designs that balances those trade-offs without turning into a pain to shoot. Number 8. Kel-Tec P32. The P32 is a classic pocket vanish design, featherweight and built to disappear in a front pocket or coin pucker. Chambered in 32 ACP, it gives you ultra-low recoil and a tiny muzzle flip. But don't mistake that for easy follow-ups. The grip is minimal, so control comes from a tight wrist lock and practiced presentation. Carry it in a molded pocket holster that keeps the muzzle pointed down and the trigger covered. Loose pocket carry here is asking for trouble. On the range, it rewards slow, deliberate first shots at very close ranges. Aim for controlled pairs inside 5 yards rather than long strings. Feeding can be picky on microframes, so test any defensive hollow point you plan to carry. Some loads, like short, stout-jacketed bullets, feed better than longer profile rounds. Mag springs and feed lips are wear items on these tiny pistols, so keep spare magazines and rotate them if you carry daily. Clean and lightly lubricate rails and the slide contact surfaces, but avoid heavy oil in pocket carry to prevent lint buildup. If you want the smallest possible footprint and can commit to training the draw and follow-ups, the P32 delivers vanishability. Just accept the trade-offs in ergonomics and capacity. Number 7. Kel-Tec P11. The P11 is Kel-Tec's lightweight 9mm compact that was built to disappear in an ankle holster or a tight IWB, but still shoot like a service pistol when you need it. It's all business. Polymer frame, slim slide, and a grip that's short but usable enough for controlled follow-ups if you lock your wrists and drive the gun. Carry it where you can present it cleanly, shallow IWB or an ankle rig, and use a holster that keeps the muzzle down and the trigger blocked. On the range, the P11 rewards a solid presentation. The trigger and reset are average for the class, so your accuracy comes from consistent setup and follow-through rather than trigger finesse. Recoil is brisk, but manageable because the gun is light, and the 9mm round is doing the work. Practice firm wrist lock on your draws, and you'll get usable strings inside 7 yards. Feeding is generally reliable with quality magazines, but like any older compact, it benefits from fresh springs and a couple of spare mags in rotation. Maintenance is simple. Clean the feed ramp, rails, and extractor area, and check magazines for wear. If you run into limp wrist issues, a slight grip adjustment or switching to a different defensive load usually cures it. Ergonomically, it won't win awards, but it gives you a small, service-caliber option for carry without complicated controls or gimmicks. For someone who wants a basic, proven 9mm compact that stays out of the way until needed, the P11 is a pragmatic choice. Number 6. Car PM9. The Car PM9 is a true micro 9mm built around smooth, compact shooting and inside the waistband concealment. It's slim enough to disappear under a shirt, but long enough for a usable two-handed grip that helps follow-ups stay practical. The trigger is short and crisp for the class, so your first shot can be impressively fast and accurate if you practice clean presentation. Recoil is brisk for such a small frame, but the PM9's slide mass and lock-up tame muzzle flip better than many polymer pocket 9s. Carry it IWB or in a deep concealment holster that keeps the muzzle down and the trigger sealed. Pocket carry-on pistols this size still needs a molded pocket holster to be safe. Feeding is generally dependable with quality 9mm hollow points. Though like any micro, you should test your chosen load extensively and rotate magazines regularly. Maintenance is straightforward. Keep the rails and feed ramp clean and replace mags or springs that show wear. If you want a balance of concealability and real 9mm performance without strange gimmicks, the PM9 delivers a compact package that rewards practical training. For everyday carry where you want a full power caliber in a modest footprint, this one earns respect. Number 5. Beretta 3032 Tomcat. The Tomcat is Beretta's ultra-compact .32 ACP pocket pistol built with a tip-up barrel that makes loading and clearing stupidly simple. That tip-up barrel is the whole point. You can load a chamber or clear a malfunction without racking the slide, which is a real advantage for some carry setups and for shooters with limited hand strength. Carry it in a good tuckable pocket holster or a small IWB that keeps the muzzle down. Don't trust loose pocket carry on a gun with that short sight radius. On the range, it rewards deliberate first shots at very close distances. Follow-ups are limited by the tiny grip, so focus on presentation and strong wrist lock instead of trying to muscle fast strings. Feeding and extraction are usually reliable with standard .32 ACP defensive loads. But always test your specific hollow points. Some profiles, like short, stout bullets, run cleaner in these tiny chambers. Maintenance is simple. Keep the tip-up hinge and feed ramp clean. Inspect magazines for worn lips and replace springs before you see failures. If you want a pocket-sized tool that's easy to operate under stress and kinder on weak hands, the Tomcat's unique geometry wins points, but accept the trade-offs in sighting and follow-up speed. For a real-world vanish and defend option where simplicity matters, the Tomcat makes a lot of practical sense. Number 4. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 380, Bodyguard 2.0. The Bodyguard 380 ACP is a modern little pocket pistol built for everyday concealment and straightforward carry. It's compact, light, and engineered with practical features. Integrated laser on some models, a smooth trigger profile, and a chassis that keeps prints slim against the body. Carry it in a molded pocket holster or a shallow IWB that keeps the muzzle down and the trigger covered. That laser helps with fast presentations in close quarters, but never replaces sighted practice. On the range, it rewards clean presentation and controlled follow-ups. Recoil is mild for the caliber, but the short grip means you must prioritize a firm wrist lock to get usable strings. Feeding and extraction are generally reliable with standard 380 hollow points. Though, like any micro, you should test several loads to find the gun's sweet spot. Mag springs and thin magazines are wear items. Rotate spares and inspect lips regularly. Maintenance is simple. Keep the feed ramp and slide rails clean, and don't drown the internals in oil if you pocket carry. If you want a tiny defensive tool that balances ergonomics and modern features, The Bodyguard 380 ACP is a smart, practical choice. Train with the laser and with iron sights, so you're not dependent on one aiming method when it matters. Number 3. Ruger LCP2. The LCP2 is pocket carry made painfully simple, tiny, light, and designed to be invisible until you need it. Chambered in 380 ACP, it's not a power monster, but in a real close-in fight, the extra rounds and low muzzle energy make follow-ups easier to manage. The textured grip on the two gives you a surprising amount of purchase for such a small frame, which translates directly to faster, more usable follow-ups compared with older pocket pistols. Carry it in a molded pocket holster that orients the muzzle down and protects the trigger. Loose pocket carry is asking for trouble with any micro. On the range, focus on smooth, consistent presentation and short, deliberate shots inside 5 to 7 yards. That's where this little gun shines. Feeding and extraction are solid, with proven 380 hollow points, but test your chosen defensive load extensively and rotate mags. Thin magazines wear out faster than full-size ones. Maintenance is straightforward. Clean the feed ramp and rails, and swap worn springs before they bite you. If you struggle with recoil, work on wrist lock and a two-handed grip where possible. The LCP2 rewards technique more than brute force. For daily carry, when concealment is the top priority, the TWI hits the sweet spot between vanishability and real-world usefulness. Train with the exact holster and ammo you plan to carry, and you'll know what this pocket-sized defender will, and won't, do for you. Number 2. Sig P365. The P365 flipped the micro world by packing real capacity into a slim, carryable frame. It's a 9mm that behaves like a compact, not a toy. That extra capacity changes how you plan reloads and fight through malfunctions. Suddenly, you're not praying one mag will solve everything. Carry it tucked IWB, appendix, or in a deep pocket holster. The chassis is slim enough to disappear under a shirt, but gives you usable grip real estate for two-handed control. The trigger is clean for the class, which makes the first shot count. Follow-ups come together when you practice short, aggressive strings at 3 to 10 yards. Recoil is brisk but manageable because the frame balances slide mass and geometry well. You'll get faster follow-ups than most pocket 9s. Feeding is generally reliable. But, like any micro, test your specific hollow points and rotate mags so springs don't fail when you need them. Side options and aftermarket iron and optic cuts make the P365 unusually adaptable for a gun this size. Add a small red dot, and your practical accuracy window widens considerably. Maintenance is straightforward. Keep the slide rails, feed ramp, and extractor clean, and inspect mags for burrs or weak springs. If you're training for real carry, treat the P365 like a service pistol in miniature. Run full drills, practice reloads, and simulate stress. For people who want a 9mm that actually shoots like a 9 and still hides like a micro, the P365 is the benchmark. Number 1. Seacamp LWS-32. The Seacamp LWS-32 ACP is the ultimate vanish gun. Tiny, dense, and built to be carried every day without announcing itself. It is stainless, heavy for its size, and engineered around concealability rather than comfort. The trigger is a deliberate double action that wants respect, and that long, consistent pull is part of the safety envelope for pocket carry. Don't expect long-range precision. This pistol is about putting a decisive first shot on a very close target and then controlling very short follow-ups. Presentation is king with the LWS. Practice a clean, positive draw from a tuckable pocket holster so the gun indexes the same way every time. Ammunition choice matters here. Stick to tested 32 ACP defensive rounds within recommended overall length and validate them with multiple magazines. Magazines and springs are the wear items, so keep spares and rotate them if you carry daily. Maintenance is simple but regular. Light film of lubricant, clean feed lips, and watch the chamber ring and rails for odd wear. If you want absolute disappearability and can train to the pistol's idiosyncrasies, the Seacamp rewards realistic expectations with reliable performance. For many deep concealment carriers, this is the one you reach for when nothing larger will do. You've just run through a dozen micro pistols that actually get carried, not just ogled. If one of these caught your eye, test it on the range and build your drills around that specific holster and load. That's the only way a tiny gun becomes a reliable tool instead of a surprise. I'll be breaking down drills, mag rotation routines, and ammo choices in the next videos so you can train exactly the things that matter for pocket carry. Stick with practical setups, train deliberately, and don't let concealment be an excuse for skipping fundamentals. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Stay sharp.